Good evening, afternoon, morning, night, whenever you find a way to watch or listen to this podcast. It is me, Omar, from Hardware Podcast with my good friend and colleague Jackson, and we're providing for you the week one preview. And if you watch our week zero preview, yes, I'm wearing the same shirt. But that's because of the circumstances. We pre-recorded this week one preview because from week zero all the way to week three's lead up, I'll be paying my dues to Uncle Sam and doing a training exercise out there in the desert. So I won't be able to provide content. If Jackson finds a co-host, the show will go on. But until then, this will be the last episode, the last preview episode until I get back to previewing in week four, which I am just eager to get back and catch up on the college football season. So with that, Jackson, you have anything to begin or to lead off with?
I'm sure that week zero was awesome. So if there's any major surprises that we are not referencing, then that is why. But yeah, that's where we're at. So I'm excited, man. Down, I'll find another co-host, unless Izzy just gets super into college football in the next month. Um, but uh, but yeah, may figure out something solo that's nice and quick. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But that'll be to be announced. TBA. Go ahead and give at Hardware Pod a follow on Instagram, because if we do have some sort of alternative, that's where it's going to be at, or at least where it's going to be announced. So we'll figure that out as we go along, though.
Yeah, for sure. And just another note too, speaking of socials, this podcast will also be platformed on the Shady Sports Network. After it shows up on our channel, just like the week zero one, it will show up on the Shady Sports Network channel. So if you're one of their 261 subscribers, tune into this podcast and just watch it, watch or listen to it and whatnot. So we're excited for this partnership too. Our interviews are going to be on that network. The interviews at least that we facilitate through the Shady Sports Network will be on that YouTube channel too. So we're both excited for that. So yeah, I guess without further ado, Jackson, we're going to start off with our games to watch and then transition to our players to watch too. So yeah, I'll let you start off, Jackson.
Yeah, man, I'll go ahead and go with my first game. Technically is a cupcake game, but I've followed both teams at least semi closely over the past couple of years. As you'll see for obvious reasons in just a second. But yeah, man, I've got San Houston State at Texas A&M, noon Eastern on the SEC network for week one. So is, like I said, traditional SEC cupcake game, but Sam Houston State is coming off of two 10-win seasons and, might I add, the 2020 spring FCS championship. And then also Texas A&M is a team with a lot of offseason drama this year, man. It's been one thing after another. They've had some capacity to drop some games, maybe not all the way down to the FCS level, but to for sure lower opponents that they should not lose to. So who knows? I'll definitely have it on at least on that noon window, right after college game day. If it gets competitive, we'll keep it on. But we'll see. It's definitely something to watch the beginning of for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of get some App State, Michigan type vibes from this game, honestly, with Sam Houston State returning so many good starters. I believe Eric Schmidt is still quarterbacking there, for Sam Houston State, which I'll check really quick. But I mean, definitely not a cupcake game for sure. Definitely a test. And honestly, I'm not sure if Texas A&M foresaw Sam Houston State being this good when they scheduled this game years in advance. But yeah, I'm excited for it. Like you said, the SEC's traditional cupcake week being this weekend, as we talked off the net, the week before rivalry week. So definitely, and again, like you said, like I asked you about it, it's like you're like which one. When I asked you during cupcake week, you said which one. So
I slipped up big time, man. I didn't necessarily mean it. Florida's playing an out-of-state non-conference game in next year, so you can get over that. We're playing Utah this year. You can get over all that, man. So and Alabama is really good about scheduling these games, but they're so dominant. It's really not fair. Remember when USC opened up all all crazy in AT&T, and then it's like 52-6 or something like that. So it happens, but.
Yeah, so I guess just a brief correction. Eric Schmidt has moved on from the Bearcats, but they get a key transfer in Jordan Yates out of Georgia Tech at quarterback. So definitely something to watch for there. Jordan Yates being a great dual threat for solid dual threat for the Yellow Jackets. But of course, that quarterback room's kind of backlogged with Jeff Sims out there doing good things for the Yellow Jackets and Jeff Collins. So I mean, 3 years eligibility left. They could be a force to be reckoned with in the WAC this year and Conference USA next year. Again, Conference alignment. So my first game is probably something very predictable for both of us, but Army Coastal Carolina at 7 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Plus. And this game has certainly gotten some attention from a lot of college football fans because it's cool to be hip. It's cool to be hip now. It's cool to it's like to be a contrarian. Instead, like a lot of people are saying, I'm excited for Notre Dame, Ohio State, but how many people are saying I'm excited for Army Coastal Carolina? So it's cool to be a contrarian. And a lot of people are hyping this game probably for one reason only, because of Grayson McCall, who returns this year. And we all know about Grayson McCall, a sleeper Heisman candidate who we talked about in our Group of Five podcast. That great offensive system with Jamie Chadwell in Coastal Carolina, that triple option spread that they run, absolutely amazing. So we all know about Grayson McCall, but I got to ask, do we know about Andre Carter? Do you know about Andre Carter, Jackson? And probably most of our audience too. Do you know about Andre Carter, who the 6'7" pass rusher had 15.5 sacks for Army last season? And do you want to guess how high he is on Mel Kiper's big board, Jackson?
I'm guessing pretty high because Jim Nagy tweeted about him. I think even Mel Kiper can get that right. So
14. He is 14 on Mel Kiper's big board right now. And if he is drafted anywhere, literally anywhere above the 7th round, he would be the highest drafted Army player since Glenn Davis, the Heisman, the 1945 Heisman Trophy winner, out of Army with the number 2 pick when Glenn Davis picked number 2 in the 1947 draft, which absolutely amazing for Army. Just shows how far they've come along to. But this game should be competitive. It's a sleeper game in the New Year's Six race. Not so much for Army, because as an independent, they have to hit the top 12 to make the playoff. And I believe the playoff semifinal games this year are the Fiesta is it the Fiesta and the Cotton this year? Or sorry, it's a pairing. It's a Fiesta and Peach, right? I think last year was the Orange and Cotton, so I think it's a Fiesta and Peach this year for New Year's.
I think it is. I think I could be wrong, but yeah.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, the only at-large spot for a Group of 5 team, or pretty much anyone, is in the Cotton Bowl. So it's gonna be hard for Army to get an at-large spot in the New Year's Six. But Coastal Carolina too, this is a resume building win, if they beat Army at home. So I'm excited for this one. Of course, 7 p.m. Eastern.
And already coming up with the compliments for Coastal for when they went. Yeah, it's early.
Oh wow, I'm saying if. I said if they win.
Okay.
I said
if.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
yeah, man, I'm not gonna lie. Andre Carter is a beast. I'm not gonna say watch out Brenton Cox or anything, but he is really good. And then Coastal Carolina obviously sustained success. We talked in the last podcast about week 0. They did lose Isaiah Connolly, so definitely losing something in the run game for sure. But man, I'm excited to see how it goes. And as far as I was pretty surprised this game is being put on ESPN Plus, because there is a lot of hype around Army this year, and deservedly so, with the talent that they have that they're usually lacking. And then also Coastal Carolina is been killing it, so Coastal Carolina gets a lot of attention. I think a lot of people were surprised that Grayson McCall came back, even though this was such a weak quarterback class. Really. But yeah, I'm excited. Definitely gonna be keeping an eye on this game. I think it's 7 Eastern, right?
Yeah, 7 Eastern ESPN Plus.
Yeah, 7 Eastern ESPN Plus. I think it's on during the Utah game, so I'll keep an eye on it though, for sure. I'm excited. And also, I do want to add, he would be the highest drafted player since the number 2 overall pick, if he's drafted anywhere above the 7th round. It is tough. Service Academy players are put in a pretty bad position because there's no guarantee they're going to be playing, right? So it is a pretty no other school obviously has that stipulation for when you graduate. So it definitely is a tough situation to be in. I almost compare it to like he plays baseball too. Like, is it maybe he's going to pursue the MLB instead of, football, but it's like, it's even worse because you're like contractually obligated to here. Right. But we'll see. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. And hopefully the chief of staff or whatever general makes that decision, we'll let him play when he does inevitably get drafted.
Yeah, so I guess that's an interesting point you made. So let's talk about it because the thing is with all these guys, like you look at the past guys that have gotten attention for their exploits, I guess they're pro prospects. You look at guys from Navy, Keenan Reynolds, Malcolm Perry. So it was like a bygone conclusion that they were going to be late draft picks because they're triple option quarterbacks. So they're kind of like they're puzzle pieces. You fit them where you can. You look, I guess, at the Air Force Academy guys there too. Kind of like the same case when it comes to like linemen because it's mostly linemen. Like a lineman from the Air Force Academy is going to be a later round guy just given the scheme that they run. Andre Carter, from all intents and purposes this year, like looks like a can't miss prospect on many people's draft boards. So it's definitely a higher profile case. And a lot of teams will be like kind of put to to a decision whether like you draft him early for the talent that he has, depending on the senior season he has. Now I'm not gonna say like all like he's at that point like right now to be a top pick, but if he has a great year this year, like we're looking at a top, I guess, a day two, right? Day two's rounds 2 and 3, right?
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
it's round one, night 1, 2 and 3 for night 2, and then 4 through 7. And remember, this isn't the MLB where we have 20 rounds. It's there's tons of UDFA action afterward as well.
So yeah, very, very fluid and complicated situation. That's how I'll finish that. So
you're forgetting about, you said it's mostly linemen. You're forgetting about Weston Steelhammer. Remember that name back in the day.
Yeah,
For Air
UDFA
Force.
though, right? He was a UDFA at safety, right? I don't think he was drafted, was he?
It was brutal because he found out the day of rounds, the day of day 3 of the draft, the decision came out that he couldn't play if he got drafted.
Okay.
So it was interesting. It was supposed to be, but yeah, how can you forget a name like that though? But yeah, man, I'm gonna go with my next game to watch. I'll go ahead and go with North Carolina A&T versus North Carolina Central. Man, formerly known as the Aggie Eagle Classic, and now they're playing the
Still known as that. Still known. It's got 2 names. It's
okay.
Yeah,
Oh, my bad. My bad.
Names,
Okay, I thought that was like a historical thing. My bad. But now they're also doubling this year as the Dukes Mayo Classic at BOA at Bank of America Stadium, home of the Panthers. Man, this is the 100th anniversary of the first meeting this year. Only the 93rd matchup, but it was. And in 1922 that their first meeting was. Man, the schools are only about 55 miles apart along I-85, so close proximity rivalry. You're playing in an NFL stadium. I don't care what Dion says, it does add some electricity, and hopefully the winner of this will be maybe get dumped with some mayonnaise or something like that. So
yeah, I mean, this one's exciting for sure. I mean, last year, like we mentioned in the Week 0 podcast, we had North Carolina Central upset Alcorn State in the MEAC SWAC Challenge. Maybe there's some more upset magic for North Carolina Central here against North Carolina A&T. Of course, North Carolina A&T were the 3-time defending Celebration Bowl, or actually 4-time, 3 in a row, so defending Celebration Bowl champs. They've now moved to the Big South. They kind of struggled a bit in the Big South, going 5-6 last year. But I expect them to bounce back in their final year in the conference in a 6-team Big South, where it looks like they're the favorite to make it out to the playoffs out there. This game too in Charlotte again, it's great. The Dukes Mayo Classic is showing love to the Group of 5 in FCS. Like last year on a Thursday night, they had App State, East Carolina out there in the Queen City, the first Group of 5 matchup. In the Dukes Mayo or belt kickoff turned Dukes Mayo Classic. Now they got this HBCU, which I think North Carolina A&T sold out their ticket allotment. I think they're filling the lower bowl only, but they might have to open up some of those upper deck seats out there at Bank of America Stadium. Now this will be the first meeting in Charlotte since 2008, and the first meeting at Bank of America ever. I mean, of course, that meeting in 2008 was at I think the stadium was called War Memorial Stadium. in Charlotte. So yeah, so I'm excited for this too. 7:30 Eastern on ESPN Plus. It's going to be a night game too. The environment should be electric. You got in-state HBCU rivalry. You got the bands. You got probably the most passionate fans in college football in terms of HBCU fans in general. It's always a party with these games. So I'm excited for it as well. I kind of wish I still lived in Augusta so I can drive up. I have a reason to drive up and make that game. But you know, I already saw one Duke's mail kick off. So my second game is Cincinnati at Arkansas at 3:30 Eastern on ESPN. And as crazy as it sounds, a win here could put Cincinnati in the playoff conversation for a third straight year before they head to the Big 12 and won't have to deal with all the anti-Group of Five BS from the playoff. So Arkansas went 9-4 last season. We all remember how they had that great run to be in the season and peaked at number 8 in the polls after they beat Texas A&M. Then they came back to earth after they lost to Georgia. But I mean, they return awards dark horses like Bumper Pool at linebacker. We're looking at a Bednarik and Nagurski Award dark horse at linebacker with Bumper Pool. KJ Jefferson has gotten some not just I guess Heisman Trophy dark horse love, but NFL love because he's got great size. He's a very good runner. He's his passer doesn't make many mistakes. So this Arkansas team, I expect them to be in the top 25 when the AP poll drops. Cincinnati, on the other hand, returns eight offensive starters, and that does not even count their experienced quarterback Ben Bryant, who started all year last year for Eastern Michigan, took them to the Lending Tree Bowl, and had started a few games for Cincinnati beforehand. So he returns to Cincinnati from Ypsilanti. They do lose 6 starters on an elite defense from last year. Of course, we all know about Sauce Gardner. That's a huge loss right there at corner. And something like Sauce Gardner is going to be a very great player for the Jets, from what I hear. From what I hear out of training camp. So a win here could vault Cincinnati in the top 10 easily. And that's if they're not already there. I'm anticipating Cincinnati will be a top 15 team when the AP poll comes out, but this one could put them back in the playoff race. So definitely a game that people aren't talking about for sure.
Definitely, I will say, yes, Cincinnati lost a lot of talent. Man, Arkansas lost Traylon Burks, which is a huge loss, being the number 18 overall pick in this past year. So, yeah, both sides have lost some talent. Both sides, I think, have very high expectations for this year. Arkansas, they won. It was either I believe it was the week 2 last year that they beat Texas. So I mean, both teams are used to early year success, and then Cincinnati obviously coming off their best year in program history. So excited to see what both these teams can do. This is one, as far as like it's must win, is like I feel like never overused in college football because it's more must win than ever, unless you're in Alabama or something like that. But man, this really is like also a must not lose, because like whoever loses this game is gonna get like hardly any attention until they do something else drastic. And if it's Cincinnati, they might not have the opportunity to do that later on in the year. So I'm excited to see this one. I'll go ahead and go with my next game for week 1 to watch. I'm going to go with another HBCU game, Florida A&M, who I also had last week, versus Jackson State, another NFL stadium game, this one being played at Hard Rock, home of the Dolphins. Dolphins are playing there just 1 week later, actually, versus New England, exactly 1 week later, because this game is actually going to be on Sunday, so something to watch before we kick off the NFL year. 3 Eastern on ESPN2. If you love defensive battles, this is definitely the one for you. Last year, the score was 7-6 and a close Jackson State win. And the game went scoreless in the second half. So expected to be a close game, expected to be low scoring. Really excited what these teams can do and kind of break in the grass at Hard Rock Stadium before the Dolphins and that speedy wide receiver core kind of rip it up.
Yeah, for sure. And it's interesting as well because this game, if you look at last year's SWAC race, it settled the SWAC East. That was the SWAC East title game in week 1, as Florida A&M ended up only losing one of the game, their FBS game, and ended up making the playoff, the FCS playoffs. So, but yeah, Jackson State on the way to a SWAC title, won that game 7-6 last year, and in the season debut for Jackson State, for both teams actually. I expect nothing less this year too, and of course it's a revenge game, so should be closer as well. The Orange Blossom Classic, it's great that it's back with one of the it was a postseason bowl from 1934 to 76, before the FCS alignment, before I guess Division I AA came into being. So I mean, just great pageantry and tradition out there in Miami. I hope to go one year. So exciting game out there on Labor Day weekend, of course on Labor Day Sunday, which it seems like the HBCUs have taken over Labor Day Eve for their own, as kind of like the lead into the ABC night game on Sunday night. So very excited as well for that one. Excuse me. For my third game, I'm going to go out west to the Mountain West, and a very historic moment for the San Diego State program, as they finally have their own stadium to play in. That's not Qualcomm, that's not Jack Murphy or whatever you used to call it, San Diego County Credit Union Stadium. They have their own stadium in Snapdragon Stadium now. Seats 35,000. This will be the first game in that stadium this year. A great chance for exposure for the Mountain West, because that game's going to be at 3:30 Eastern on CBS. And don't be fooled. The Mountain West has they have 3 games per year. If not more. I think they have 4, because one of the games is Air Force Army, which is Army's controlling the rights to that game, but that one's on CBS anyway. So they have 3 Mountain West control games on CBS each year. Because there's no because this year a lot of the SEC schools are playing paycheck games. The SEC won't take that 3:30 Eastern spot, but San Diego State does, a more than capable team, a team that was in the New Year's Six race. San Diego State should be favored in the first one in this game in their new stadium. They returned 7 starters on a great defense last year, and they have an upgrading quarterback play with Braxton Burmeister coming from Virginia Tech, a good dual threat out there. The thing with San Diego State was this team they had probably some of the greatest close game luck I have seen in a long time, as they had many 1-score games against teams that they shouldn't have had 1-score games with. As I'm counting right now, they had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 1-score victories out of their 12 victories last year. So this is the team that had great close game luck. They let teams hang around that shouldn't have hung around, such as UNLV, honestly. But it'll be interesting to see where San Diego State leaves off the fight in Brady Hoax out there in San Diego. And I expect San Diego State to beat Arizona in a game that should be competitive. Arizona should be more competitive this year under Jedd Fisch.
Yeah, Arizona has obviously not had much success in the past few years. Maybe one of the least successful Power 5 programs, and you could say the opposite for San Diego State, right? So it'll be fun to watch, and it's always good when it gets on a national broadcaster like CBS, like ABC, a network like that. It's always great when you're a smaller school that hasn't got as much attention. You can play on that level. Man, I'm gonna go ahead and go straight into 2 very successful Power 5 programs. Utah at Florida. Utah coming off of a close Rose Bowl loss, really one of the best games of the year last year to Ohio State. And Florida, a team that was, they were really a couple DPI calls and a 2-point conversion away from beating Alabama. And it spiraled out of control from there. But Utah, a lot of carrying over a lot of talent from last year. And Florida still had, I think, like 4 or 5 draft picks, and then a whole new coaching staff. So both losing talent and installing Billy Napier staff, that a lot of carryover from Louisiana. I have a hard time picking Florida, but because of how successful Utah has been, I do think that they're the team with the better coaching staff, or at least as good. I think they have the better quarterback in Anthony Richardson, and I assume 90,000 strong and have the home field advantage. So we'll see. But yeah. If the Pac-12 does have any hope for the future after USC and UCLA leave, man, Utah's got to be the school, right? Like, Utah has had the most success as of recently, and Oregon will always be in that conversation, but it's really going to be Utah that, if anyone's going to be a powerhouse after those schools leave, it's going to be them.
Hold up, pump the brakes, Jackson, pump the brakes. You think, nothing against Anthony Richardson, but you think he's a better quarterback than Cam Rising? Cameron Rising, who changed the trajectory of Utah's season. Utah was destined to not make a bowl. They lost to BYU, lost to San Diego State. And you think Anthony Richardson's better than Cameron Rising? And you're saying that not just as a Florida fan. Can I know why?
Extremely high ceiling, held back with injuries last year. But man, an incredibly high ceiling. And it's not just me as a Florida fan saying it. The NFL only gets like a handful of underclassmen that they're allowed to invite to the combine. And Anthony Richardson was one of them, right? So he's being recognized at the next level too, as already having that talent. And I don't think, I mean, Omar, clearly you didn't watch every Florida game last year. I watched every snap. Anthony Richardson is a force to be reckoned with. He's on my Heisman, watch list at least going into this year. But we'll see how creative they can get. And I mean, the play calling was just atrocious, especially towards the end, right? It did Anthony Richardson no service as far as his talent and what it could show. So man, I'm very excited to see what he can do. What better way to start off against an incredible defense in Utah?
But do you think the margin's close though? Do you think Cameron Rising is close in terms of ability at like right now to Anthony Richardson? Cameron Rising, I mean, great year at Utah last year, changed trajectory of that program.
Absolutely. Absolutely went almost like for the part that he I believe he went out in the middle of the game, but he was like throw for throw with CJ Stroud last year. So yeah, absolutely he's there. But I think Anthony Richardson is brings a whole new dimension to the game, and that he's is running as his dual threat ability is the best part of his game, and he's a really good thrower too. Throw the ball very nicely. So man, I'm excited to see both of these quarterbacks battle it out. But yeah, man, just watch out for AR this year. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, I will, but Cameron Rising ran for us 566 non-sack rushing yards with under 70 carries. So it's like,
yeah, and then
he's run for run with Anthony Richardson too. But okay, that's my case. I mean, I for me, it's hard for me to believe you're saying that unbiased.
7:00 Eastern on ESPN. Will you be watching, Omar? Or do I have to send highlights?
You have to send me highlights, but because I will not be able to watch that. But
how about this? Okay. How about because I'll watch the all 22 like at some point the week after. I'll just take videos during that and just send you that. Does that sound good?
That sounds good, but okay. Yeah, I guess it's best that we move on from that. So I guess my next game too is also on Labor Day Eve, and it's not LSU Florida State. Unfortunately, we have the Black College Football Hall of Fame Classic in Canton, Ohio, at I almost called it Fawcett Stadium. It's not Fawcett Stadium anymore. At Tom Benson Stadium, the site of the USFL playoffs and title game. You have Central State versus Winston-Salem State, and these are two schools that have a great tradition. They got great tradition in football, but as of late, they've struggled. Central State went 1-9 last year. Winston-Salem State went 3-6. Both schools are in the Winston-Salem's in the CIAA, and then Central State's in the SIAC. But this is great. It's a national TV appearance on NFL Network on a light slate, of course. They're only competing against the Orange Blossom Classic. Should be a good game and atmosphere with these teams both kind of struggling. So it should be a back and forth game. And that brings me to my HBCU Pigskin Showdown player to watch for this game. We got Taishan Taylor, 6'1", 253-pound offensive outside linebacker, and defensive end. He had 67 tackles last year, 6.5 tackles for loss, and 1 sack for the Rams last year. And this defense was solid. They allowed 24 points per game last year. So a solid defense that looks to improve. And if you look at the HBCU Pigskin Showdown, of course it's a new player in the All-Star game scene, but they made their noise out there in leagues like the USFL. When it came to the USFL, you had Ezra Gray making the New Orleans Breakers roster. You had Kingston Davis, another both invites to that game. You had Kingston Davis making it to my New Jersey Generals roster. So, Taishan Taylor seems like a guy that fits that USFL mold and or even XFL too when the XFL comes out. So I'm excited to see him play as well. So and then I guess that'll segue into my first player of the week too. Kind of a fluid structure we have with this podcast. We got Cameron Lewis out of Winston-Salem State. The Rams quarterback last year had 1,114 yards and 9 touchdowns last year passing. 453 non-sack rushing yards and 5 touchdowns last year, all in only 8 games on a struggling offense. So, of course, we expect him to improve this next year. So, just a guy to watch out there on NFL Network. And I got to say, last year watching the Tennessee State Grambling game, in the Hall of Fame Classic, it was a great broadcast. I think Charles Davis did color commentary. I remember Andrew Siciliano did play-by-play, did a phenomenal job, and I look forward to hearing those guys too. I know Jackson's surprised to hear me praise NFL broadcasters, but they did a great job of that game.
And Andrew Siciliano is one of the best in the game. I spend every Sunday afternoon with him on the DirecTV Red Zone channel, and then always calls the All-Star games as well. So love seeing the Andrew Siciliano love. I will say we've talked about how the National Football League can better promote these HBCU games, especially the ones that are in NFL stadiums and the ones they have partnerships with. It's on a Sunday, right? That game is on a Sunday. What better time to have Good Morning Football Weekend with Colleen Wolfe, hosted by Colleen Wolfe and others on that Sunday. They always do it on Saturday. I never watch it because it's during college game day. But, man, what better time to have it than that Sunday going into that game, man? So, hey, hopefully we'll see it. But yeah, I'll go ahead and go with my last game to watch. We wouldn't be doing college football week 1 justice if we did not at least mention it and talk about it for a minute. Notre Dame at Ohio State. Man, I always thought that I hated Notre Dame and that it was like not just, always disliked Notre Dame for whatever reason. It turns out I dislike Brian Kelly all along. I love Marcus Freeman. He's done an awesome job in recruiting. He's had a better class than Kelly's best class his whole time there. And not to mention, to add to the drama, as I'm sure ESPN will point it out 50 times, Marcus Freeman is an Ohio State alum too, right? Ohio State coming off of what they won't call, what Ryan Day won't call a successful season, but I think objectively is in a Rose Bowl victory. And I mean, Ohio State did lose a lot of talent with Chris Olive and Wilson. But man, yeah, Notre Dame also lost Kyle Hamilton. So both these teams are having some growing pains and rebuilding years, but yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes. I don't see a scenario where Ohio State loses, in all honesty, but I'm still interested in how motivated this Notre Dame team is under new leadership. I would assume even more motivated, and Ohio State is, ready to lock and load.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. Like, this is like the test to see. I mean, I think this year, I think the drop off is significant just given Notre Dame's schedule. Honestly, I'm not sure if this is a New Year's Six team. I think they'll still find themselves pretty high in the ACC's bowl pecking order. Which, a brief aside, the ACC puts Notre Dame into their bowl pecking order in years they don't make New Year's Six. But I don't think this game's not going to be competitive. I think Notre Dame will cover in this game because they're a double-digit underdog. But yeah, I think Ohio State's too powerful on offense for them. But that doesn't mean, I mean, it's a year of transition, of course, as well. I mean, they're going from Jack Cohn. Oh, go ahead. I'll let you take it.
I was just going to say, I should mention that I did mention, obviously, Kyle Hamilton is the big one. I mean, Notre Dame had less players drafted last year than Florida did, and their awful season. I mean, they only had 2 players drafted, Kyron Williams being the other. So, yes, they lost their best player, but they didn't lose like a ton of starters like Ohio State necessarily did. So something I should point out.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, when I mean transition, I mean guys like, your quarterback Jack Cohn, even though I've heard from all reports I've heard Tyler Buckner is having a great spring, he's having a great fall camp for the Fighting Irish. And they still got Michael Mayer. Michael Mayer, one of my favorite players in college football, following that strong tight end tradition with Notre Dame. You think about guys like Dave Casper, throwing it way back, Dave Casper, Ken McAfee, before Kyle Pitts, the last tight end to be in the top 10 of the Heisman voting, Ken McAfee, and also a former 49er. And then you also have Kyle Rudolph in recent years, John Carlson. Michael Mayer is fitting that mold, and he's like that. I mean, that's a great target for Tyler Buckner to throw to. But again, it's just Ohio State as well. Just too powerful. I mean, year in, year out. CJ Stroud comes back. Jackson Smith and Jigba also too. I mean, so should be interesting to see as well. I think that Saturday Night Football is that's the Saturday night game for ABC, right?
I believe so. It is going to be on ABC. Yeah.
Yeah, on 7:30. So, what better way to kick off the year for Saturday Night Football than that one? I guess going on the complete opposite scale from my last game, we're going down to the FCS level for a game that has like really already great FCS playoff implications with Davidson and Jacksonville State. So for the past, I mean, if you go way back to the spring of 2021, we talked about Davidson a good amount too, and their race to their first ever playoff appearance. Like that year, they snapped San Diego's, I think, 47 game conference winning streak within the Pioneer Football League. End up winning the Pioneer Football League, making their playoffs for the first time and playing their first postseason game since the 1969 Tangerine Bowl when they played Toledo. So they made it back to the playoffs last year under the radar. In 2021, they ended up losing to Kennesaw State, 45-21 or 48-21. But this is a team I have always liked Davidson ever since the spring season because of their offense. Call this team the Coastal Carolina of the Tar Heel State because they run a similar triple option offense out of the shotgun. I mean, last year too, you may not have realized, but Davidson averaged 336 yards per game rushing. They returned their top two running backs. They returned their quarterback. This is the team to be reckoned with. And of course, the talent gap is there with Davidson being a small school with less than 2,000 students, and Jacksonville State on their way to Conference USA and being a perennial power out of first the OVC, now the ASUN, and now of course on their way to FBS. But this game can be super close. I mean, Davidson's going out to Burgess Snow Stadium out there in Jacksonville. Should be, if Davidson can kind of shorten the game, create less possessions for Jacksonville State. Davidson can make this a one-score game, but I expect Davidson to have good fight against Jacksonville State. And I mean, if that one's at noon at 12 o'clock, if you ask me, that this is a true big new, 12 o'clock Mountain Time. So it's 2 p.m. 2 p.m. Eastern. So excuse my last comment I was about to make, but yeah, like this game should have playoff implications too, because if Davidson ends up beating Jacksonville State, you look at a scenario where maybe Davidson has a shot at an at-large spot in the playoffs, in the FCS playoffs, if they don't win the Pioneer Football League, or if Jacksonville State ends up beating Davidson and Davidson wins the Pioneer Football League, you look at an opportunity for Jacksonville State to get an at-large spot if they don't win the ASUN, because the ASUN has Kennesaw State too, great playoff team. So I'm excited for this one too. Excited to see the triple option of Davidson for another year. And if you're a Service Academy fan, I think Davidson or Kennesaw State are your teams to start liking for FCS.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And that's something that I love about the FCS in particular, that yes, it is a big playoff, and I'm not advocating for that at the FBS level, but it is nice that you just have to worry about getting in. Just like the NFL, right? You just have to get in, and then you at least have a shot. And there's not tiers to it like there are with bowl games, right? So yeah, and I'm excited to see how that starts out. And like we mentioned in our week 0 preview, man, there's some big games being played in week 0 in week 1 of last year that decided the playoff seeding for later on in December, right? So they're just because it's early on in the year doesn't mean that it can change your year or can't change your year, rather. I'll go ahead and move on to I only have 3 players to watch, so I'll let you take a couple after this. I'll go ahead and go with my first. If you're in kind of the more scouting aspect of football, you probably have at least heard the name Tucker Kraft, the tight end from South Dakota State. Man, 6'5", 255, almost unanimous FCS All-American. Also a Missouri Valley Conference honor roll, so smart guy too. Second team All-State in basketball in high school, which is something that I wanted to mention because we've talked a lot about, especially in our All-Star previews, the importance of being dual sport athletes. And I think that particularly applies to tight ends as far as like having the ability to go up and get the ball, having that spatial awareness and that depth perception that comes in really handy at that position. Great acceleration, size. He's an adequate pass blocker, but his soft hands really make up for it. One of the best draft prospects at tight end this year, and a guy who's really going to get a big spotlight against Iowa as they open up against a program that's has seen some success in the past few years. So excited to see what Kraft can do in week 1.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised you didn't mention Dallas Goddard out of Philadelphia, just another great South Dakota State tight end. filling that pedigree too. Of course, the Eagles, the team that I like these past couple of years with Jalen Hurts at quarterback, if he continues his development. But yeah, South Dakota State, just a great offensive system, just so much talent too. I mean, you got Pierre Strong making the East West Shrine Bowl last year. And then of course at quarterback, Chris Oladokun making the NFLPA Bowl as well. And I think he got a free agent contract with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Oladokun did. And of course, Pierre Strong drafted by the Patriots, which a quick note, I mean, the Patriots are building a great backfield too. I give Bill Belichick credit for building such a solid backfield to support Mac Jones at a quarterback. They, the AFC East should be pretty spicy the next few years, so the Jets can do what they can with their young talent. So I'm excited for sure. So I'm going to stay at the FCS level with Jackson and mention a linebacker combo out in the Seven Hills of Worcester. We got Jacob Dobbs and Liam Anderson for my Holy Cross Crusaders. Dobbs got on Jim Nagy's small school board earlier this summer, which for me, that was enough for me to start planning a trip to Mobile to see Jacob Dobbs play and be the first Holy Cross player to play. Hopefully, I'm not saying he will, but to hopefully be the first Holy Cross player since, and I'm about to do the research because the Senior Bowl is great with their archiving of what players have played. So I'm looking at the all-time roster right now. He would be the first player to play in the Senior Bowl for Holy Cross. My Wi-Fi cooperates, so I'd be able to research. It is cooperating here. The first player to play since 1988. The last player to play last pair of players to play for in the Senior Bowl for Holy Cross were, Jackson?
I'm not really aware of late 80s Holy Cross football, so you'll have to enlighten me on this one.
It would be Andy Martin and Gordy Lockbaum. Gordy Lockbaum, who was a Heisman finalist in 1987 and 1986, who played both ways for Holy Cross. There ended up being a 30 for 30 short about Holy Cross, about Gordy Lockbaum playing running back and defensive back for the Crusaders. But yeah, he would be the first Senior Bowl player since Gordy Lockbaum. Jacob Dobbs would be. Also, too, his counterpart, Liam Anderson, he's on the Shrine Bowl 1000. He had 88 tackles, 15 tackles for loss, and 3 interceptions last year. Dobbs had 137 tackles, 17.5 tackles for loss, and was Walter Payton Finals and All-American for the Crusaders. Holy Cross has a revenge game on that Friday night against Merrimack on September 2nd. So that Friday night slate is a little bit packed, but I mean, that's certainly one to keep tabs on too, because there's playoff implications too for Merrimack. Merrimack looked, they beat Holy Cross last year. They've shown flashes of improvement as a program, and they look like a contender in the Northeast Conference. And of course, Holy Cross looking to complete the 4-peat out there in the Seven Hills. So.
Absolutely, man. No, that'll be awesome to see. And Holy Cross, a team that's definitely on our radar on hardware and awesome to see. But I'll go ahead and go with my next guy. Really, I guess my HBCU pigskin showdown player to watch for this week, Brandon Codrington, both a defensive back and a punt returner from North Carolina Central. He did make Phil Steele's FCS All-MEAC first team in punt returner, third team in kick returner, and fourth team in defensive back. So a man that wears many hats. He's great as a defensive back as well, obviously with being fourth team All-MEAC. But man, 2 blocked kicks, a 77-yard kick return for a touchdown, both in the season opener. He's been doing it for a while too, because he's young, but he's appeared in all 12 games as a true freshman, which is something that you don't see very often at any level of football. Just a piece of advice for when you're watching NC Central: don't go to the bathroom or run to the kitchen to grab more mayonnaise or whatever when there's special teams action, because Brandon is absolutely killing it and an exciting player to watch. Hope to see the ball touch his hand a few times.
Yeah, I'm excited as well. Should be electric whenever he touches the ball. And the block kicks are amazing. It's an amazing stat, because when you think about block kicks, you think about like big linemen up the middle getting those blocks. But I mean, for him to come off the edge like that and block kicks, like that's truly a testament to his speed and I guess get off at the snap. For my next player of the week, I got a guy. So Jackson, just I guess name some Heisman quarterback candidates. Excuse me, just real quick, just a few.
Yeah, definitely. I'd go with Grayson McCall, CJ Stroud, Bryce Young. Probably throw Anthony Richardson in there. That's 4 for me. Do you need any more? Or
No, I think that's
Jay
good. So I'm gonna
Kaner,
throw in a guy.
maybe?
Oh, Jay Canner. Okay, yeah. So I'm gonna throw in a guy that is really, by all accounts, just like overlooked. Brennan Armstrong out of Virginia.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
Brennan Armstrong. Yeah, like probably the most underrated quarterback in the country, next to Sam Hartman, I think. And that's over the group of five guys that you even mentioned too, because even the group of five guys are getting attention themselves. Like these guys are getting overlooked in their own conference. Brennan Armstrong had over 4,700 yards of total offense last year, including nearly 400 yards passing per game. He missed the start. That's with him missing a start against Notre Dame. So in 11 starts to compile over 4,700 yards of total offense is amazing. If UVA makes the ACC title game, he could take a similar Heisman path to Kenny Pickett. Like honestly, similar. I guess he runs very well. He's got weapons out there in Charlottesville. I can see him definitely being in the conversation if UVA, makes some moves in the ACC Coastal, or I guess like I'm not sure if they're switching the new championship format this year, or if it's 2023, but making some waves in the ACC. The Cavs play Richmond week 1, so that's a chance definitely for Armstrong to put up, some good stats, maybe a 400-yard passing game, 50 yards rushing. But yeah, like I'm not surprised that Armstrong wasn't on your radar because he's not on a lot of people's radar, despite the mind-boggling stats he had last year.
Man, if we had the time to go through every quarterback at every school, man, I feel like there'd be a lot of guys that are overlooked because there's so much talent. That's the great thing about college football. You can look for days on end and still be finding guys that have incredible talent. And this guy's sitting right in front of us in a Power 5 school. Typically a level of football that does not get overlooked. Right. So awesome to see you really find Armstrong on there. I'm gonna go with my next guy because really I need to apologize to Bo Nix. I've said he's overrated for a while, definitely poked a few jokes at him on the pod, but man, if you can somehow find a way to get on the national stage on ABC and get this win versus Georgia, or we got to come up with some sort of, NIL deal or something like that to get him because I really do owe him one. So if Bo Nix can make some magic, then we'll see. It definitely hope he can.
Yeah, I mean the Bo Nix hype is real this year for sure. Like I'm excited to see what we can do with Oregon. Hopefully Oregon can burst the playoff bubble for the Pac-12, getting their first playoff team since 2016. They were close last year. Of course. But I mean, I'm excited to see what Bo Nix can do, especially, I mean, away from Auburn, in a system that I guess Oregon can optimize his talents, I guess, for per se, because they made Anthony Brown, a pretty good quarterback last year. So we'll see for sure. I mean, and of course, the thing is, Mario Cristobal is out as coach. A lot of people acknowledge that Mario Cristobal's offense held back Justin Herbert's development. In Oregon, had I guess I saw a tweet that said Mario Cristobal really had Justin Herbert running bubble screens at 10 p.m. Eastern out in Oregon. So we'll see how Bo Picks develops. But I mean, I like the situation there with the skill players as well. My next guy too is we talked about how star-studded Army Coastal Carolina is going to be. You got Grayson McCall, Andre Carter. You have 2020 Loman Award winner Jacoby Buchanan for best fullback in the country, and the award given by PFT commenter. So I'm going to show love to a great slot back that Army has in Tyrell Robinson, who does it all for the Black Knights. I mean, absolutely dynamite. He's about 5'5", 5'6". He saw his touches increase last season. He was 10 yards away from being the first slot back to lead Army in rushing since 2013. Had 72 carries for 609 yards. He had 12 catches. He had 12 catches for 340 yards. 3 rushing and receiving touchdowns apiece, averaged 14 yards on 10 punt returns, 22 yards on 5 returns. I'm not saying he's going to be a dark horse Heisman candidate, but I'm saying he's a Paul Hornung or a dark horse, despite not making the watch list inexplicably, because the award is for the most versatile player in college football, not for the best kick returner. I've had my qualms with the Paul Hornung award, but it is what it is. It's turned into the Johnny the Jet Rogers Award. That's what it is. Like it's like you can't. It seems like it's just an award for the best return man, just like the Johnny the Jet Rogers Award is. It's like there's an award for that. Let's give it to the people who are actually the most versatile players in college football. Like our friend of the podcast, Neil Boudreau, last year, who did not even get a look from the award. Like I don't even know if the Paul Hornung Award can call themselves the award for the most versatile player in college football if they're not giving it to a guy who is their team's starting punter, plays quarterback, and had good running ability last year. But I really hope the Paul Hornung Award gets it right. But I have low faith in the Louisville Sports Commission, to be honest with you. Like I'm not afraid to say it.
And Omar, have a little more faith, at least. Good
I,
grief.
I don't
Yeah.
though. I don't. Can you blame me? Like, can you? I mean, yeah,
No,
Marcus Jones.
I don't blame you at all. I don't blame you
Yeah,
at all.
Marcus Jones
Give me a
won
hard
it.
time.
Like,
Yeah,
yeah, he
but
won it
it's
last year.
yeah.
Yeah, like Marcus Jones is a winner. I mean, of course, Marcus Jones was the best return man in college football, but it's like, I mean, yeah, Marcus Jones had a little bit of offensive play, but not as versatile, obviously, as like a guy like Neil Boudreau last year, or even a guy like I just mentioned with Tyler Robinson, like being used in a variety of ways. Like, not just was he a slot back in the backfield, they split him out wide. He returned punts, returned kicks, he even threw a pass in the Army Navy game. It's like, what are we doing here? What are we doing? But I'll hand it to you for your next player to watch.
That was it, man. I didn't get the memo that we were doing 5, so I only had my 3. So I'll let you wrap up with your last couple, and then I'm good to go.
Okay. So yeah, I guess my last player to watch is Carlton Marshall out of Troy, and I think he's a Butkus front runner, and we're just not even realizing it because he's had 110 tackles the past 3 seasons. I believe he won the Burrowsworth Award as the best walk-on in college football. I know he was a finalist. I'm not sure if he won it. Was a finalist for the Burrowsworth Award. He had 127 tackles last year. Should be all around the field against Ole Miss in week 1. If the game could be close, and if it is close, he could make some waves for the Butkus Award, as a front runner. But he definitely should be. But we all know how it is with Group of 5 players and the position awards. Like it's an uphill battle for both of them. So I guess for a Group of 5 players in these position awards.
Yeah, definitely, man. I mean, the group of 5 always doesn't get looked at properly, like we've said, dozens of times at this point on the podcast. But yeah, hopefully he can get a look at and give these guys the shot they deserve.
Yeah, for sure. I'm excited for week 1, even though I won't be watching it. And yeah, especially with the Group of 5 guys like we mentioned. So yeah. I mean, what else to say? I sound like a broken record saying how excited I am for college football to start. I don't really have anything else to say, Jackson. Do you?
I'm good, man. That covers all the bases for me. Just excited to see how week 0 played out as we're recording this beforehand, and then how the rest of the season plays out. Always so much drama. Can't wait to watch it all unfold.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I guess with that, everyone, it's been nice. Tune into some great college football week 1, even though we're recording this in early August, due to the circumstances. But until next time, everyone, peace, love, and